Okay, let's get right into it. There is this project that is absolutely exploding at the intersection of AI and crypto, and it's suddenly the talk of the town. You're probably seeing it pop up everywhere. So today, we're going to break down exactly what Bittensor is and why it is causing such a massive stir. And, this isn't some tiny, obscure project we're talking about. We are talking about real scale here. BitTorrence's token, Tau, already has a market cap of over $3 billion. So right off the bat, the market is placing a pretty significant bet on this whole idea.
And this isn't just a niche crypto story either. When a super influential tech investor like Chamath Palihapitiya just mentioned BitTensor on the All In podcast, the reaction from the other hosts was just pure shock. That's a huge signal that the biggest names in tech are now paying very, very close attention. So let's break down what's actually going on.
So here's how we're going to do it. First, we'll look at the sudden surge in attention. Then we'll get into what Bittensor actually is. After that, we'll check out a major breakthrough they're calling the Templar proof, explore the powerful story that's driving all the hype, and finally, we'll weigh that hype against the cold, hard reality. All right, let's get into our first section, the sudden surge. I mean, how did Bittensor go from being a relatively unknown project to suddenly being, well, everywhere? Well, the data shows what looks like a wildfire of awareness. It's not just the price of the token. Both social media mentions and trading volumes they've absolutely skyrocketed lately. It's like a field of dry grass that was just waiting for a spark. And this was the spark. Investor Jason Calacanis dropped this simple but, let's be honest, totally explosive statement on X. Tau is greater than Bitcoin. As you can imagine, this just created a firestorm of controversy and brought a massive, massive wave of new attention to the project. It took it from a niche thing to a mainstream conversation, like almost overnight. So that leads to the next logical question, right? With all this hype, what is Bittensor really? What is the actual core idea here? At its heart, it's a simple but really powerful concept. Think of it like a global open marketplace for AI. The network uses its own crypto, Tau, to reward people all over the world for contributing their computer power and their AI models. The bottom line is, the most valuable contributions get the most Tau, which creates this powerful economic reason for everybody to collaborate. And this right here, this illustrates the fundamental difference in philosophies perfectly. On one side, you've got the giants, Google, OpenAI, building AI in these massive centralized data centers, totally behind closed doors. And on the other side, you have Bittensor's vision, an open, permissionless network where literally anyone can contribute, and the ownership is spread out among its users. Now, a decentralized AI network, that sounds cool in theory, right? But how do we know this can actually compete? Does it work in practice? Well, that brings us to our third section, the Templar proof. It's a recent breakthrough that took this idea from just a concept to a working reality. This is the headline number you need to see. The network just finished training a massive 72 billion parameter AI model. Just for some context, you can think of parameters as kind of like the knobs the model uses to learn from data. So the more parameters you have, the more complex and, potentially powerful the model can be. Okay, so 72 billion parameter pre-training run is a ton of technical jargon. I get it. So what does this achievement actually mean for the future of AI? Why is it such a big deal? So here's the crucial point. It was the largest decentralized AI training run ever. It was done without any centralized supercomputer, just a global network of people who could join freely with their own GPUs. This is real, tangible proof that you don't need to be a tech giant with $1 billion data center to build powerful, competitive AI. It proves the model isn't just a theory anymore. It actually works. And this breakthrough, it feeds directly into a much bigger story, which is really what's making Bittensor so appealing to so many people. Let's look at the David versus Goliath narrative that is supercharging this entire conversation. The Goliath in this story is what some people are calling the big bad wolf problem. The idea that a handful of massive tech companies, think Google, Microsoft, OpenAI, are basically centralizing control over what might be the most important technology in human history. It taps into this growing fear that a small, unelected group of tech leaders are steering the future of intelligence for all of us. And this isn't just some philosophical debate. You can see this narrative playing out in the real world. Right now, there are $64 billion worth of data center projects that have been blocked or delayed because of local opposition. People are actively pushing back against the physical footprint of centralized AI, and that creates a clear opening for a decentralized alternative to get a lot of support.
Okay, so we've seen the hype. For our final section, let's get into hype versus reality, because it's really important to acknowledge the criticisms and understand the more nuanced vision behind the project.
So the main argument against it, the bear case, is this. Critics point out that the actual revenue being generated by the networks built on Bittensor doesn't really justify the high market value. Not yet, anyway. Many AI services are offered at a discount because they're being subsidized by people earning new Teo tokens, not from pure profit. It's kind of like a new airline giving away free tickets to fill its planes. The big question is, will people still fly when they have to pay full price?
And what about that Tau is greater than Bitcoin tweet? Well, the founder of Bittensor, who goes by Const, he provides a much more sober perspective. He doesn't see Bittensor as a competitor to Bitcoin at all, but as something built inside the world that Bitcoin created. He argues you can't have one without the other, which is a really stark contrast to all the hype you see online.
So why are investors so excited, even with these risks? It really comes down to this slide, the valuation gap. Centralized AI companies like Anthropic or OpenAI are being valued in the hundreds of billions of dollars. Bittensor, which is trying to build a decentralized competitor, is valued at just a tiny fraction of that. So for investors, this represents a massive asymmetric opportunity. If Bittensor captures even a small piece of this enormous market, the potential returns are just astronomical. Which leaves us with the ultimate question, the real core of this entire debate. When we look back in 10 or 20 years, will we see that the future of artificial intelligence was forged inside the massive, walled-off data centers of a few corporations? Or will it have been built by an open, permissionless, and globally distributed network? That is the multi-trillion-dollar question that Bittensor is forcing all of us to ask.